Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Gopinath Radha Gopinath Radhe. Radha Gopinath Radha Gopinath Radhe. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Prabhupada. Jai Jai Gurudev 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 Gurudev. Jai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol. Jai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Welcome all to the second session of the topic Dvijapatnis. We will begin our session. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 23, Verse 26. Nanvadhamai kurvanti kushela svatadarshinah ahaituki avyavahitam bhaktim atmapriye yatha. Nanvadhamai kurvanti kushela svatadarshinah ahaituki avyavahitam bhaktim atmapriye yatha. Nanvadhamai kurvanti kushela svatadarshinah ahaituki avyavahitam bhaktim atmapriye yatha. Translation. Certainly, expert personalities who can see their own true interest Render unmotivated and uninterrupted devotional service directly unto me, for I am most dear to the soul. Purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The Supreme Lord informed the Brahmanas' wives that not only they but all people who recognize their true self interest take to the spiritual process of loving service to the Lord. Lord Krishna is Atma Priya, the real object of love for everyone. Although each individual has his own taste and freedom, ultimately every living being is a spiritual spark of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, everyone's primary loving attraction is constitutionally meant for Lord Krishna. Loving service to the Lord should be ahaituki, without personal motive, and avyavahita, unobstructed by mental speculation, selfish desire, or any quirk of time and circumstance. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम् वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमा ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे बृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna. So today we will begin our second session. So as the verse has told, the translation says, certainly expert personalities who can see their own true self-interest render unmotivated and uninterrupted devotional service directly unto me, for I am most dear to the soul. So who is speaking this? These words are spoken by Lord Krishna himself. Krishna himself is telling to the Brahmana Patnis who have come to see him. What is he saying? That the most intelligent persons, they know that their true self-interest lies in rendering unmotivated and uninterrupted devotional service unto me. So Krishna is Atma Priya. Atma Priya means he is the dearmost object of everybody's self. And why is Krishna speaking about true self-interest? Self-interest is not selfishness. Self-interest is different from selfishness. What is the self? The self is not the body. The self is not the mind. The self is the soul. The soul is the part and parcel of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In fact, in the next words, Krishna speaks about why self-interest is so important. Because everything starts with the self. From the self is comes the intelligence, the mind, the body, And with the body, there are relationships of like friends, relatives, spouse, etc. So the first is the self. And to uh, to satisfy the self is self-interest. And once that is done, that is when a person can do the greatest good. So how is the self satisfied? First canto, second chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam speaks about this. Savai pumsa paro dharmo yato bhakti radokshaje ahaituki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. So, the supreme occupation of every person is that by which a person comes to the standard of unmotivated and uninterrupted devotional service. And when this service is unmotivated means there is no other desire except pleasing Krishna. And uninterrupted means it is not interrupted by any external circumstance of time or place. When it is unmotivated and uninterrupted, that will completely satisfy the self. The self is the soul. So, why is it? Because that is the constitutional nature of the soul. This kind of a unalloyed devotional service is the function of soul. F of S, function of soul, is unalloyed devotional service. It is like how water is to the fish, so is unalloyed devotional service to the soul. And until the soul reaches that platform, all sorts of dissatisfactions, confusions, feeling of incompleteness continues. And how does one reach to that situation? How does one reach to that standard of unmotivated and unalloyed devotional service? It is a practice. It is by the practice of devotional service. Devotional service is both the means and the end. So this self-realization happens parallel to God realization. It's not one, something that is different. Actually, it is said that self-realization and God realization takes place simultaneously. Just like when there is sunrise, a person can see himself or herself in the mirror, and he can see the whole world around him. Similarly, when the sunrise of God realization takes place in our life, a person can see oneself clearly, who yourself truly is, and the person can see the whole world in relation to God. So God realization and self realization take place simultaneously. So how does this God realization take place? What is it process? This process by which the self connects to the higher self is technically called yoga. See, we hear yoga, it's a very popular word these days. Yoga, there are so many yoga centers. But what does yoga actually mean? Yoga comes from the word yuj. Yuj means to connect to the higher self. And what are the different types? So there are different types of yoga. There is karma yoga, the process by which we connect to the Supreme Lord through the process of activities dedicated to the pleasure of the Lord. There is jnana yoga, by which through the process of knowledge and mental speculation, one tries to understand the Lord and thereby connect to Him. And there is hatha yoga. It is the eightfold mystic process by which a person works on their inner airs, the pranas, and thereby connect to the Supreme Lord. And all these three yogic processes culminate in the ultimate process called Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is the process of loving devotional service to the Lord. And this is called the yoga of love. That's a topic for today, Bhakti, the yoga of love. So because Bhakti is an affair of the heart, and Bhakti is the currency that purchases the Supreme Lord. So, generally there is the discussion between the Mayavadis, the impersonalists and the Bhaktas. So once Prabhupada said, while quoting Nanda Maharaj, so now Prabhupada told to that impersonalist, so you're all trying so hard to become God. But do you know what? If you practice bhakti, you can become the father of God. So this was what Prabhupada said. So Nanda Maharaj is the father of Krishna. So that's the power of bhakti. Why are you trying so hard to become God? You become the father of God. You become the caretaker of God. Just keep God in your own control. What can do that? Only bhakti. Damodaram bhakti baddham. Can attain Lord only by the process of bhakti. So, uh, in this context, so last week we were discussing about Braj Bhumi. Yeah, the spirit of understanding the spirit of Vrindavan. So Vrindavan is that place which is abode of this pure devotional service. The topmost of devotees reside in Vrindavan. Their devotion is unparalleled. You cannot compare it with any other. The highest state of unmotivated, uninterrupted, loving devotional service, so spontaneously occurring, so naturally. There is no other interest other than Krishna. Everybody is just crazy about Krishna. That is Vrindavan. So that is what we have discussed about last week. We also discussed about the monsoon season, the autumn season, how the whole seasons personified are so eager to manifest themselves in various beautiful ways for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. So this is what we discussed last week, and how in that, towards the end of the autumn season, Krishna, so pleased by these beautiful, the flowers and the moon and the sun and the nature, he plays his flute, and we spoke little about the Venu Gita. The Venu Gita, very beautiful verses of Srimad Bhagavatam. Think 21st chapter. Then after that, we spoke about how the gopis glorified the flute, that is the Venu Gita, and after which we spoke something about the pastime of Krishna stealing the. We spoke about the Katyayani Vrat performed by the gopis. These are all the gopis of Vrindavan. And then the pastime of Krishna stealing the garments of the gopis. And what does it signify? It signifies that Krishna is telling us to come past the wall of false ego to attain Krishna. So, as long as this covering of false ego, one cannot attain the Supreme Lord. So, one has to remove those thick clothes of false ego that is like a big layer covering the soul from being from approaching the Supreme Lord. And then we spoke about how Krishna walked past the Yamuna river towards the outskirts of Vrindavan with his friends, all the Gopakumaras and Balaram, and how he was glorifying the trees of Vrindavan. We spoke about that last week. And then they finally reached the outskirts of Vrindavan, where the boys, the Gopas, were all hungry. So when they were hungry, they went and told Krishna, Krishna, Balaram, we're feeling really hungry. Why they were saying they're hungry? Because when they are hungry, they know that Krishna is hungry. That's why they say, Krishna, now we have to do something about it. So this is out of love. But in our case, we offer bhoga to the Lord when we are hungry, so that when Krishna accepts that, we can eat the remaining. So that's a different kind of it's humbling, but it is good. But still, because we are acknowledging the presence of Krishna, offering to the Lord, and then accepting his remnants, that is fine, that is appreciated. But the Gopas, they are great devotees of the Lord. When they are hungry, they thought, oh, Krishna might be hungry, then we have to make arrangements for Krishna's food. In fact, the Gopas, some of them, they don't eat until Krishna eats. There is this beautiful place when you're going on a Govardhan parikrama. There's a beautiful place called Puchrika Lota Baba. There is a nice small temple, sweet temple, and there's a beautiful pastime attached to that. Actually, when Krishna is leaving from Vrindavan to Mathura, when Akrura is taking Krishna and Balaram in his chariot from Vrindavan to Mathura, then when he's reaching the outskirts of Vrindavan, one of the Gopakumara, he's preparing the bhoga for Krishna. So when he's preparing the bhoga for Krishna, he sees the chariot of Akrura pass by. So then he turns and he sees Krishna, and he asks him, "Where are you going? I'm preparing food for you." So Krishna tells, "I will come back." Then he tells, "Okay, my dear friend, I will wait until you come back." And then Krishna leaves. He goes to Mathura, and after that, he never returns to Vrindavan. He goes to Mathura and from there Dwarka, and he never returns to Vrindavan. And this Gopakumara, ever since that time, he never ate anything. He was just waiting for Krishna. He just thought, Krishna told me that he will come back, he will come. So until then, he never ate a single morsel. He was just waiting for Krishna to come back and honor the food that he prepared. So in that, as a memoir of that, they've constructed a beautiful temple called Puchrika Lota Baba Temple. It's a very touching pastime. You have to hear how the Vrajvasis narrate this pastime of Puchrika Lota Baba. They say, "Na khaya na piya, bas sham ka intezar kiya," and they just go on and on with their beautiful emotions about this sweet temple. So that's how all the Gopas are so dedicated. They love Krishna so much, and they can do anything for him. So that's how the Gopas. Yeah. Now the Krishna tells the Gopas. Now the Brahmanas are performing some sacrifices. So go to them, and they're performing this Angirasa sacrifice because they want to attain the heavenly planets. Just go to them, tell them that I am hungry. Tell them that Krishna Balram have come. Tell them that we are hungry. So the Gopas go to beg food from the Brahmanas. So these Brahmanas, they were so caught up with their sacrifices that they neither say yes nor do they tell no. So to beg on behalf of Krishna is something that really purifies the ego. I mean, of course, the Gopas are pure devotees. But for us, for if any of us have the experience of going for book distribution or fund collection, it's quite a purifying experience sometimes, because what is book distribution? You go and approach people to buy the books. So people can say yes, people can say no, and sometimes people can even ignore you and walk away from you. Anything can happen. So you really ask somebody, if somebody goes to book distribution and comes back, you can ask their experience. So the Gopas go, and they get a no reply from the Brahmanas. They come back to Krishna and tell that these Brahmanas they did not respond. So Krishna then tells, now go to the Brahmana Patnis and then ask for food. Don't tell them that I am hungry. So the Gopas go to the Brahmana Patnis and they go and tell them. Krishna and Balaram they have come a long way from Vrindavan. So they just reached the nearby forest and they are waiting. And they tell them that they're hungry. Krishna told them, don't tell them that we are hungry. But the Gopas told them, Krishna is hungry. So you might think that how could the Gopas disobey the orders of Krishna? So basically, we cannot judge the intentions of especially Brajvasis with our logic. One can disobey the orders of Krishna when one knows what is the heart of Krishna. So these Gopas, they know what is the heart of Krishna and they know how to serve Krishna. So they can, in the service of Krishna, they can disobey the order of Krishna. So that's the cup of tea of very exalted devotees. So they are very eager to serve Krishna and they're very eager to see Krishna satiated with his hunger. So that's the reason they tell the gopis that they're hungry. So the Brahmana's wife, the title of this chapter is called The Brahmana's Wife's Blessed. So what is Brahmana's wife's blessed? Krishna did not specifically come and give blessings to the Brahmana's wives. So why is this chapter entitled The Brahmana's Wife's Blessed? So basically, the Brahmana wives are great devotees of the Lord. So we were talking about bhakti. So bhakti, in the process of bhakti, there are two ways to achieve perfection. One is called sadhana siddha and one is called kripa siddha. So sadhana siddhas are those people or those devotees who achieve perfection by the dint of their sincerity in performing their sadhana. And Kripa Siddhas are those devotees who achieve perfection by receiving the mercy of the Supreme Lord Himself. These are called Kripa Siddhas. Kripa means mercy. So the Brahmana Patnis are come under the category of Kripa Siddhas. The other examples are given. Even Bali Maharaj, the Brahmana Patnis, and even Shukadev Goswami, they all come under the category of Kripa Siddhas. So the Brahmana Patnis have achieved their highest perfection simply by receiving the mercy of Lord Krishna. That is why this chapter is entitled The Brahmana's Wives Blessed. So when the the Gopas approach the wives of Brahmanas, they tell him, they tell the Brahmana Patnis, my dear ladies, so Krishna Balaram have come and okay, they're hungry. So immediately, as soon as the wives of Brahmanas hear that Krishna and Balaram have come, some of them, they faint in ecstasy. Why they faint? They faint because they have been hearing about Krishna for so long. They've been hearing from whom? They've been hearing about Krishna from the uh, various ladies who used to come from Vrindavan for the selling of betel nut leaves, for selling of fruits, flowers. Because Vrindavan is very rich in natural products and minerals. So the people of Vrindavan, the Brajvasis, used to come to the neighboring villages and to sell their products. So they used to meet these Brahmana Patnis and they used to just tell the glories of Krishna. Just by hearing the glories of Krishna, their love awakened. We see a similar example, right? We saw a similar example also in the pastime of Queen Rukmini. Just by hearing about Krishna, she developed such immense love for Krishna. Shrutva gunan bhuvana sundara shunvatam te nirvishya karna vivarair haratongatapam rupam drisham drishimatam akhilathalabham tvayachyutagata chittamapatratam me. Shrutva Gunan. So Rukmini Devi is telling, by hearing about you, O Bhuvana Sundara, the most beautiful, most handsome person of all three worlds. Yeah, I have just all this love awakened in me, and now my mind is so restless and shameless that I just hanker to meet you. So Shrutva, just by hearing. And so just by hearing about Krishna, his beautiful form, his beautiful qualities and beautiful pastimes, and all the Brajbasis used to come and narrate the pastimes of Krishna stealing butter and all these sweet pastimes. Not much of the demons, but they used to tell about all the sweet pastimes of Krishna. So they were hearing, and they used to hear and hear and hear, and the love awakened. It's not falling in love like the material love, but it is an awakening of love that happens because love of God is inherent to the soul. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunoi Shravanadi Siddha Chitte Koriye Uday. So Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunoi Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte Koriye Uday. Just by hearing about the Supreme Personality of Lord, Shuddha Shravanadi, Shuddha Chitte, by when you're hearing with a clean consciousness, Krishna Prema, which is inherent and dormant in every living entity, awakens. This is there in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So we see this happening with the Brahmana Patnis. So when this love has awakened, they were just eager and eager to see the Lord face to face. And when a devotee is ripe to meet Krishna face to face, Krishna comes. He just comes. He is Makhan Chor. It is said that when uh, when your heart becomes like Navaneet, when you churn your heart, all the anarthas are gone, removed, and all the beautiful, the most creamiest and best qualities come out in the form of the butter. Yeah. So to steal that butter-like heart, who comes? The Makhan Chor. Krishna comes to steal that kind of a heart, which is ready. So just like that, the gopis' hearts, the hearts of the Brahmana Patnis, they became butter-like soft and tasty, like, delicious for the pleasure of Krishna. So Krishna has come to give his mercy to them. So when the Brahmana Patnis heard about Krishna's arrival, they fainted. Immediately they fainted. On one side, they fainted out of that extreme ecstasy that Krishna has come. He's just few meters away from where we're staying, and he wants us to come and meet him. They just cannot imagine anything more than this in life. So in that ecstasy, they fainted. So on one side, they fainted, but on the other side, internally their mind is telling them, "You fool, get up fast. Krishna is waiting there. He's hungry. You have to go and take all the bhoga for him." So, this kind of a competition between your mind and your intelligence and competing to love, and serve Krishna. This is amazing. The most purified intelligence, the most purified mind. So for us, our mind is always pulling us away from Krishna. But here we see the mind of the Brahmana Patnis is reminding them, please get up, you have to go and serve Krishna. Yeah. It's there in Bhagavad Gita, right? For the person who has conquered his mind, the mind is his best friend. And for one who has not conquered the mind is the worst enemy. So mind as such is neither good nor bad. It is about how we have tamed it. Has it become our friend or our enemy? So we see, we always struggle so much with mind control. But we see here in the case of the Brahmana Patni, this very same mind is telling, go get up and serve Krishna. So this is the beauty of Krishna consciousness. There is no negation. There is no mind control. Some philosophies speak about a stage called nirvana, right? Nirvana means flamelessness, where the mind has become totally subdued. It is desireless. It is actionless. It is very stable. But bhakti yogis are not bothered about that. Bhakti yogis are bothered about serving Krishna, taking anxiety to serve Krishna. That is the perfection of the mind. That is the very purpose of the mind. So in this case, the mind is reminding the Brahmana Patni to please get up and serve Krishna. So the best way to control mind is not make it neutral. It is okay. Neutral is better than negative, certainly. But more important to make it neutral is to make it positive. From negative to neutral, neutral to positive. Positive is where the mind is absorbed in the thoughts of Krishna, where the mind is taking anxiety for the service of Krishna. That is the mind which is the best friend. So the Brahmana Patnis, they get up and they pack all the bhoga they have prepared, all the wonderful food items, the 4 types of food items, that which can be chewed, licked, and sucked and eaten. All of the 4 types of food varieties in great amounts they pack and they take. And they take to Krishna. Yes, so this is the perfection that they have achieved by the process of hearing. So hearing Krishna Katha is such a important aspect from the beginning of our spiritual life to awaken our lost love for the Lord. And even after attaining the perfectional stage, still what people do, bodhayanta parasparam, katayantascha mam nityam, tushyanti cha ramanti cha. Devotees just narrate Krishna's pastimes and they take pleasure and they are satisfied. Why? Why is it so that it is so relishable? Yeah, because Krishna Katha is ever fresh. Every time it is fresh. There's a beautiful verse that says, Brahman Krishna Katha Punyan Madhvi Loka Malapaha Konu Trupyeta Shrinvanaha Shritajno Nitya Nutana. So, Krishna Katha Punya is the most auspicious Krishna Katha. Madhvi Loka Malapaha. Madhvi means it is so nectarian. Loka Malapaha. It can destroy the inauspiciousness of the entire universe. Kona Trupyeta Shrinvanaha. Who can ever become satisfied by hearing Satisfied in the sense, who can ever become satiated by hearing Krishna Katha? Because you want, if you're hearing it really with a pure heart, you want to hear more and more and more and more. Why? Because Shritadnyo Nitya Nutana. Because Krishna Katha is ever fresh. Every time it is new. So today we talk about this pastime. Again, you hear it. Krishna reciprocates in a new and fresh way if we hear with a sincere heart. Because Krishna Katha is Krishna himself, they're non different. So, in that way, the Brahmana Patnis, having totally relished the Krishna Katha, having been totally awakened in their love for Krishna, and being very eager to see Krishna, it's been like eons. They're just waiting. And now is the opportunity to take darshan, to see Krishna face to face for the first time. So the eagerness in their heart made them faint, but their mind woke them up and reminded of their responsibility to take the foodstuffs and serve them. Now they're all ready, all set. I took all the foodstuffs and they followed the Gopakumaras into the forest to meet Krishna. And when they have rushed to meet Krishna, what they left behind? What they left behind is what every person hankers for in this material world. They've left behind the security of a family life. They have left behind their relationships. They knew that if they go run away into the forest to meet Krishna, once their people get to know about it, they won't accept them back. They have not cared about it. They have not bothered about it. I mean, in the modern context, it might sound for that, yeah, we've heard so many love stories this way. But back in Treta Yuga, it was a community where there's so much of the culture around it never permitted a girl to go outside the home. If a girl goes outside the home, she's not accepted back. She's ostracized in the society. So they broke all the societal norms. They took the risk of not being accepted back in the family. And they just left just to meet Krishna and just to see Krishna and just to offer their service to Krishna and to please Krishna. They knew that the sacrifices are going on, their husbands are performing the sacrifices. They didn't care for anything. They just took the bhoga, they just followed the gopas, and they just ran into the forest just to offer themselves completely to the Supreme Lord. So when they entered the forest, from a distance they see Krishna for the first time. There they saw Krishna along with Balaram and a couple of his friends. So they saw Krishna put one of his hand on his friend, and with another hand on his lotus hand, he had a lotus. He was twirling the lotus, and he had this beautiful eyes, you know, lotus-like eyes, and he had the beautiful curly hair, and they were all bumblebees that were swarming around him to taste the nectar of his lotus-like face. And he had the beautiful lips and a beautiful, a dazzlingly shining yellow dhoti, and he wore the garland of forest flowers. So he looked like a theatrical person. That's what the purport speaks about. He looked like a theatrical person. So the beauty of Krishna was so much relished by the gopis. The gopis, they were always complaining Lord Brahma. See, my dear Brahma, it took us millions and millions of births to see Krishna. And to see Krishna, you gave us only two eyes. After millions of births, we came and you gave us only two eyes. Okay, you gave us two eyes to see Krishna. But how could you give eyelids to those eyes? When we see Krishna, and after some time, the eyes have to close, they have to shut down because of the eyelids. And in that moment, we are missing that beauty of Krishna. So they were always complaining, you are, your creative potency is sad. It's not up to the mark. How could you create eyelids to your eyes? That was how much the gopis were complaining to Lord Brahma, that you have given us eyelids, because of which we are missing the darshan of Krishna. That was how beautiful Krishna was. Rupa Madhuryam. Krishna's form is of ultimate sweetness. It's the ultimate object of beauty the eyes can ever behold. And the the ladies of Mathuras, when they first saw Krishna entering the arena, they were thinking what kind of austerities the gopis might have performed that daily they are drinking the nectar of Krishna's beauty with their eyes. Gopyastapa kimacharatvamadumushya rupam lavanya saramasamodhvamananya siddham drigpipibanti anusavabhinavam durapam ekantadhamam yashasashriyamaishwarasya. So they're telling Gopya Tapa Kimacharatva Amushya Rupam. What kind of austerities the gopis have performed to see your beautiful form? Lavanya Saram, which is the essence of all beauty. Yeah, Lavanya Saram. Some of you have the name of Lavanya, right? Which is the essence of all beauty. Asamodhvam, which is unparalleled. Ananya Siddham, it is self perfect. You cannot do anything to make it more perfect. That's the kind of beauty that Krishna is having. So, what all austerity gopis might have performed, and these Mathuravasis were thinking. Similarly, that's the beauties that the Brahmana Patnis are beholding with their own eyes. And when they saw Krishna for the first time, they were in a state of ecstasy, internally in their heart. They were just Krishna, they were just embracing Krishna in their hearts. They were so mystified. It was what they were hankering for, for many births, probably. And then when they came to Krishna, so what's the first response Krishna has given? So Krishna saw them, and Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura explains in his book, in his commentary on this 10th canto of Bhagavatam, Saratha Darshini, he explains that Krishna is twirling the lotus. It had many meanings. What does it mean? Krishna is twirling the lotus. Now, this is your heart, and now it is in my hands, and please know that it is safe. So that's what the twirling of the lotus meant. And it also meant that, with your devotion, you also have given twirled my heart. That means you have pleased my heart. So there were many meanings that Krishna tried to convey by this gesture of twirling the lotus in his hand. So when he did that, and the Brahmana Patnis came and they were just stunned and they were just looking at Krishna. So Krishna approached them, and what is the first thing he told them? He said that you have come here to see me, it is proper. So that you have come to see me is proper. And Krishna tells about this, certainly the verse that we started with today. Certainly the expert personalities, who can see their own true interest, render unmotivated and uninterrupted devotional service. And he speaks about how catering to one's self-interest is the most perfect thing a person can do, because the soul is a part and parcel of the Lord, and the soul is the first thing, first object. It is a primeval object. So, and then now the whole turning point. So Krishna says, firstly, that you have come to meet, you have come so far to meet me, approved of their action of leaving behind all their family attachments and everything, all the social customs, and come to meet him. He has approved of that act. But he tells the Brahmana Patnis, now you please go back to your home and serve your husbands and help them in their sacrifices. Then the Brahmana Patni says, my dear Lord, no, we have left behind everything to come here to surrender ourselves at your lotus feet. Now please accept us. And if you think that, we will not disturb you in any ways, we know the kind of love the gopis have for you. And, we will just, they say in such a humility, they say that whatever, the tulsi garlands that you just trample away and leave. We take those tulsi garlands and place it on our head, and we survive the rest of our life. We will be right here in this forest. We will not go back. And we've just come here to surrender ourselves to you. Then Krishna tells, in a beautiful verse, he tells that it is by hearing about me. It's a beautiful verse. Krishna tells, it is by hearing about me, seeing my deity form, meditating upon me, and chanting my names and glories that love for me develops, not by physical proximity. Therefore, please go back to your homes. So, this is what Krishna is telling the Brahmana Patnis. It is by chanting about my glories, it is by worshipping my deity form and chanting my holy names. That is how love for me develops. It is not by physical proximity. Krishna is saying this and he's telling them to go back home. So, what we see here, it's a very, very important concept. What we see here is Krishna has approved the act of the Brahmana Patnis who have left behind everything and who have come to him, but he has disapproved their act. He has disapproved of their desire to not to go back home and take up to their occupational duties. Yeah, because at that point when all the Brahmana Patnis have come to him, they were reluctant. When he said no, go back, they were reluctant to go back initially. So Krishna did not approve of that reluctance to go back to perform one's swadharma or occupational duty. So this is a kind of theme that we come across many a times in Srimad Bhagavatam. It's a very interesting and very important theme. On one side, Krishna has approved of the Brahmana Patnis coming to him. That is, he has glorified bhakti as the process. He has glorified Ananya Bhakti, exclusive devotional service and surrender to his lotus feet. At the same time, he has disapproved of one's reluctance to perform one's occupational duties. Similarly, actually, in Narada Muni, if you see in the life of Narada Muni, in his preaching, in the first canto, Tyaktva Swadharma, there is a beautiful verse in which Narada Muni tells about, leaving behind Swadharma, even if one performs devotional service, that is much better than one, achieving perfection in their Swadharma and not attaining to the, not taking to the surrender of oneself to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. He says, Narada Muni says, if a person performs 100% perfectly one's Swadharma and does not take to bhakti, what is the use of performance of Swacha Swadharma? On the other hand, even if a person does not perform his Swadharma properly, but if he takes up to devotional service, he can. Such a devotional service is glorified. So here, on comparing Swadharma and Bhakti, Narada Muni is glorifying the position of Bhakti. And this very same Narada Muni, in the 7th canto, when we see, there is a conversation between Narada Muni and Yudhishthir Maharaj, where Yudhishthir Maharaj, while glorifying the position of devotional service, he inquires from Narada Muni, how should one perform Swadharma? So at this point, Narada Muni very wonderfully explains what is the duty of a householder, what are the duties of the saintly people, what is the different duties of women in general, what are the duties of various varnas, what are the duties of various ashramas. Very beautifully and clearly Narada Muni explains, and he tells them about the importance of performing one's Swadharma. So this is, being a practical preacher. They understand and explain and glorify the position of devotional service. But in the name of taking up to the process of bhakti, one should not ignore one's performance of occupational duties. If a person ignores or becomes slack in performing one's God-given duties in the name of bhakti, it tantamounts to an offense, actually, which is worse than a sin. So one should not cover up one's indifference to perform the occupational duty in the name of bhakti. Many times in the initial enthusiasm, it happens that, oh, bhakti is so amazing, it is so supreme, it is so divine, it is so glorious, it is so intoxicating. I'll only perform bhakti. I don't want to do anything else in life. Yeah, this is not approved of the authorities in Bhagavatam. It is not even approved by Lord Krishna himself. While bhakti is glorified, the sentiments are amazing, they're accepted as the best, the most glorious. But under the pretext of performing bhakti, if one consciously ignores performing one's constitutional duties, one's swadharma, one's occupational duties, that is never approved of by authorities. We see this again also in the example of in the fourth canto, when the prachetas go and meet Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva again, he tells about the glorious position of devotional service. He tells about the glorious position of a devotee. He tells even great personalities like Brahma, who achieves the position of Brahma. If you simply perform your Varnashrama dharma perfectly well for 100 lifetimes, you can become Brahma. So that is the position of Brahma. But even such a Brahma, he has to wait until, if even if he's a pure devotee, he has to wait until the whole annihilation to take place for him to go back to Godhead. But an ordinary living entity, an earthling, person of the earth, if he simply perfects the process of devotional service, in this very lifetime he can go back to Godhead. That is the potency of bhakti. So in this way, Lord Shiva explains the prachetas about the glorious position of bhakti. At the same time, he tells the prachetas, in this way, fix your mind and fix your consciousness at the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, but and also be exemplary in the performance of your occupational duties. This is the instruction he gives through this beautiful Rudra Gita. It is called Rudra Gita in the fourth chapter. Similarly, in the fifth canto, Rishabh Dev tells that Rishabh Dev tells the devotees, in his instructions, he says that my devotees are not attached to their my devotees are not attached to their possessions or families or wealth or name, fame, or prestige. But at the same time, they're not indifferent to performing their duties. This is what Rishabh Dev tells in the fifth canto. So in this way, it goes on even in the when Prahlad Maharaj and Lord Narsingadev's Leela. So now after the whole pastime is over, Narsimhadev instructs Prahlad Maharaj, you become the king and rule over the world until the next Manvantara, until this Manvantara is over. So in this way, instructions are very clear. You're the supreme most devotee, and you want to go back to Godhead. In fact, in the conversation between Prahlad Maharaj and Narsingadev, Prahlad Maharaj at one point he tells, I want to come back to you. I want to stay with you. I want to serve you personally. Narsingadev says that yes, that is for sure. But after this Manvantara, having performed your duties as the king. So in this way, it happens again and again. So this dharma is a very, very important aspect to understand. This dharma has actually three connotations. Yeah, the dharma is one's own dharma. All this way we are talking about performing one's dharma. So this dharma has three connotations. What are the three connotations of dharma? The first is the ultimate dharma. Ultimate dharma is what we have discussed. Sabai pumsa paro dharmo yato bhakti radokshade ahaituki aprathayata yayatma suprasiddha. The unmotivated and uninterrupted devotional service. That is the highest transcendental dharma, the highest level of dharma, that is. And then there is something called the material dharma. The material dharma is the varnashrama duties of your varna and duties of your ashrama. This is the second level of dharma. And there is something called transitional dharma. So what is this transitional dharma? Transitional dharma is the sadhana bhakti. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, to the as a commentary to this verse of Savai Pumsha Paro Dharmo, he tells one should perform sadhana bhakti in a way to ultimately attain to prema bhakti. So this sadhana bhakti is called the transitional dharma. So we all should understand that we are not at that level of the highest platform of ahetuki apratihata bhakti, the highest level of dharma. So one should execute one's varnashrama dharma and also follow the transitional dharma of sadhana bhakti. And this is how we, uh, as by following varnashrama and doing of sadhana bhakti, we reach the platform of prema bhakti. This is the how we should take up our journey and not prematurely consider ourselves being situated in a platform to which we don't belong to. So, so here we see the Brahmana Patnis, they wanted to stay back with Krishna. But Krishna did not approve of that. He told the Brahmana Patnis to please go back and serve your husbands. So similarly, actually, the similar thing happens in the Brahma Vimohan Leela. In the Brahma Vimohan Leela, after the whole Brahma Vimohan Leela is over, Brahmaji offers beautiful prayers to Krishna. This is called Brahma Stuti. I think some of you might have read this in during Purushottam Mass. Brahma Stuti are the prayers offered by Brahma to Lord Krishna. So, okay, Krishna heard the whole prayers of Lord Brahma and he was just silent. He didn't say anything. And Brahma comes into a feeling of, ecstasy, understanding the position of Krishna and Vrindavan. And he prays to Krishna, my dear Krishna, please allow me to just be a creeper or just to be a stone in Vrindavan or in the outskirts of Vrindavan. And let your devotees, the Brajvasis, just trample upon me and leave the dust of their holy feet on my head for always. He begs to become a stone in Vrindavan. So when he offers that prayer, interestingly, Krishna does not say anything. He's just silent. Then then Brahma looks at Krishna and he says, he understands that, he has his occupational duty waiting for him that he has to yet go and complete. Then he tells Krishna, my dear Lord, I beg leave of you. Okay, now please allow me to go. So when Brahma prays, like again, Krishna is silent. He does not respond anything. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his commentary, he says that this silence of Krishna is his approval of Lord Brahma's desire to come and stay in Vrindavan as a stone. But in his silence, he also conveyed that now is the time for you to go and perform your devotional service of, taking care of the affairs of the world. Brahma has a lot of services allotted to him, the management of the entire universe. So Brahma goes back and performs his devotional service in the form of his occupational duty. And then finally, he attains his heart's desire. So this is what exactly Krishna is expecting, that the one has his heart fixed in Vrindavan, but one should externally always very dutifully perform one's God-given duties. One should never neglect them under any pretext. So this is what Krishna is also telling them, that this is what you have to go and do to the Brahmana Patnis. In fact, even when Dhruva Maharaj prays to the Lord and the Lord appears, Lord Prishnigarbha appears to Dhruva Maharaj, even Dhruva Maharaj was so fascinated by looking at the Lord that he just wants to become devoted to the Lord and not leave him at all. But the Lord again tells him that you have to rule your kingdom for a given period of time, and also in Dhruvaloka. And finally, you can come back to me. So in this way, why do generally devotees go through this phase of becoming indifferent to one's duties? Yeah, this is a phase every devotee goes through, that when they, especially in a state of prematureness. Why do even the Brahmana Patnis, it is described in the purport that they were indifferent to their household duties initially. Why? Because when one sees the temporary nature, when one understands the temporary nature, yeah, there is a tendency to become indifferent to one's swadharma. But Krishna does not approve of this. Krishna says one has to perform their swadharma, even though understanding the temporary nature of it. This is what is called Naishkarmyam, Nishkama Karma Yoga. This is what exactly is serving in the consciousness of a nurse. Just like how a nurse serves a patient, with love, with care, with such dutifulness. But she knows that at the end of the night, I mean, at the end of the day, she packs her bag and she goes back home. So this is how some of our Vaishnavas explain. This is in the mood in which one has to perform one's duties as householders, or their occupational duty, in the mood of a nurse. So yeah, so so although, yeah, one should therefore not become too averse to their duties, nor should they become too attached to them. It has to be balanced. That is a bhakta. A person too attached to their duties is a karmi. A person too averse to their duties is a jnani. But a person who is neither too attached nor too averse is a bhakta. He's balanced. He's neither too averse to performing their duties nor too attached to them. He has a perfect balance and perfect understanding of how the duties have to be perfectly performed for the pleasure of the Lord, and not become entangled in the process. One should learn the art of being affectionate and not become attached, especially when it comes to family relationships. So in this way, for the Brahmana Patnis, like, there were many obstacles. There's one very interesting learning from this whole episode, that initially, so when Krishna told the Brahmana Patnis to go back, that is when their actual devotion was tested. Because first, the obstacles were external. That is, their family members, the norms of the society, etc., etc. These were all external obstacles. But they could overcome these external obstacles, and they knew what was their destination. The destination was Krishna. And so they ran to their destination. So, but now Krishna is telling them to go back and perform their duties. So, but their mind is not permitting them. The mind is wanting them to just be with Krishna. So now the obstacle is internal. Initially, the obstacle was external, destination was clear. Now, the obstacle is internal and the destination is not clear, because now when they go back, they don't know whether they will be accepted back. And there's every chance that they will be rejected in the society, and that to go back to what place, by leaving Krishna behind and going. Then they were not sure. It's unclear. The destination is not clear, and the obstacle is internal. But still, the Brahmana Patnis agreed, because Krishna wanted them to do that. So this was the test of their devotion. They were tested whether they could go back and perform, and they agreed, and they actually prepared themselves to go back. Similarly, even in our own devotional life, initially, the obstacles are external. Yeah, we have some probably family members objecting us to perform bhakti, or we have some habits of our own which are causing us, pulling us back from performing bhakti. But somehow we gain that momentum. Yeah, we gain that momentum by hearing and by reading or by chanting. Our destination is clear. We embrace Krishna consciousness with all our heart. So after expressing that desire to be Krishna conscious, so after some time, all the external obstacles, they mitigate, they come down. But what actually starts at that time is the internal obstacle, the obstacle of the mind. Mind giving us various propositions. So, and in that way, and in the form of ambiguities, etc., etc. So, but still, one has to continue their devotional life. A Sri Vaishnava saint gives a beautiful example. Once there is a short person and a tall person, and they both were trying to cross the river. So the short person went for some distance, and he understood that the water current is really deep, like, and he was just going inside. And after some time, it was just reaching up to his neck. So he has two options, either to return back or to continue walking. And if he had to continue walking, what he has to do, he just has to hold tight the hand of the tall person. Because a person who is tall, he can cross over easily. He does not sink in the river. So he just has to hold on and not return back. Similarly, after going some distance in bhakti, we are tiny people, and the current of temptations might just prove, the current of the material current might be unsurmountable. At that time, we just have to hold the hand of those people who are staunch, they're really tall in devotional service. When you just hold on to them, we will easily cross over this ocean of material existence. So in that way, the Brahmana Patnis have passed the test that Krishna has given them. And in fact, um, and it also here, it's a very interesting feature here that the Brahmanas have refused to give Krishna the food. But Krishna is telling the Brahmana Patnis, you go back and serve them. See, Krishna has no attitude here that these are the same people who refuse to give me food. So why will I tell them to go and no? Krishna is very cool. He has no attitude about it. He's told them just go back and serve them. So and here is one more test that is in front of the Brahmana Patnis. See, to serve Krishna or to serve a spiritually superior person or an advanced person like the spiritual master, guru, it is relatively easier because in their presence, naturally our service attitude manifests, not just manifests, one receives an inspiration to serve. Yeah, once and all their internal Vaishnavas qualities start manifesting, and the eagerness to serve multiplies many folds. Yeah, when we are serving Krishna directly, or when we have to serve a great spiritual person like our spiritual master, or great Siksha Gurus. But here Krishna is telling the Brahmana Patnis to go back and serve their husbands, and their husbands are still at the level of karma kand, in the sense they're performing sacrifices with the destination of going to the heavenly planets. So at the level of spiritual platform, they're inferior to them. They're not spiritually as advanced as them. But still the gopis, wanting to please Krishna, wanting to abide by the instructions of Krishna, they go back to them to serve them. So this is like the test, again, a test given to the gopis, the test given to the Brahmana Patnis. So if one can the test of an advanced devotee is that given in any situation or given any association, one can fix their mind and consciousness on Krishna and can carry on with their devotional service and even advance in devotional service. This is a test of advancement in devotional service. So in this way, the Brahmana Patnis have passed all the tests that Krishna has apparently posed in front of them, and they have gone back. And in the Shastras, the beautiful analogies are given that when actually the Brahmana Patnis came to Krishna, it was there. Three comparisons were given, three analogies were given. It was like the rivers flowing to the sea. It was like the arrow that was shot to hit the target, and it was like the words that are spoken. So all these three, the rivers, once they flow into the sea, they merge with the sea, the ocean, and there is no question of returning back. Yeah, and similarly, the arrow, once it is left, it hits the target. There is no question of the arrow returning back. And similarly, words once spoken, there is no question of the words taken back. Everything once left, question of going back. Similarly, a devotee, pure Krishna, once their mind is fixed in Krishna, there is no question of going back. for anything, whatever be the situation, and however Krishna might handle. This is the last verse of Sikshashtakam. Aslishyava padaratam pinashtumam adarshanan marmahatam karotiva yatha tatha va vidadhatu lampato mat prananathastu sayevanapara. That is, whether you embrace me, oh my dear Lord, or you handle me roughly, or you leave me, however you treat me, you remain my worshipful Lord unconditionally. This is the highest expression of one's love and surrender to the Lord. So this is how the Brahmana Patnis have expressed. What's the time? So this is how the Brahmana Patnis have expressed their love and surrender towards Krishna by through their actions, through their words, and by their submission to whatever Krishna has told them to do. And one interesting feature is that Krishna told the same thing to the gopis, at the Sharad Purnima night. Even when the gopis have come to meet Krishna, Krishna told them to go back, just like Krishna told the Brahmana Patnis to go back. So the wives of Brahmanas went back, but the gopis did not go back. In fact, they stay back, and there's a big, beautiful conversation between the gopis and Krishna. So one might ask, like, why? Why is it that the Brahmana Patnis did not go back, and and Brahmana Patnis went back and gopis did not go back? So it is to be understood that Krishna wanted the love of the Brahmana Patnis to reach its highest mature stage, and to increase their intensity of love for him. It has not yet reached that highest level of intensity like that of gopis. So when the gopis said no to Krishna, so they saying no is because that they know that is what pleases the Lord. So to say no to an instruction of Krishna, one must be at a level of understanding what is the desire of the Lord. Until then, one cannot just say that disobey the order of the Lord and think it is pleasing to the Lord by one's mental speculation. So the gopis' love is very high, cannot be imitated, or can be understood by uh, simple devotees or practicing devotees. So this is what we can see as a difference. So Krishna told them to go back and absorb in the thoughts of him by worshipping the deity, chanting his holy names, and while doing that and fixing their mind upon him, perform their occupational duty and serve them, assist their husband in their sacrifices. So the Brahmana Patnis go back. But when they go back at home, now what has happened? So that we will see next week. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.